Hi folks, I'm cracking open a piano, so I wanted to share some ideas with you. It's a really big thing. So, in case you were thinking about picking up a piano, or in case you were staring at one and you thought, is this worth it? What am I looking at? Hopefully this will help you, because I get a lot of questions about whether something is worth it. This isn't the official opinion of the PTG, the Piano Technicians Guild. I'm not speaking for them. But of course, to be honest, we want what's best for the piano. And money is not usually a factor when you talk about what's best for a piano, because truthfully, we tend to put the piano's health first, and if anybody's able to afford it, that's the next, the next step. So this is just for your average family, your average piano player that just has a piano but is not like deeply invested. Professional musicians will want a specific touch to the key. They'll want a specific tone, which is all awesome to do. It's good to fuel your talents with the proper equipment. But there's people with decades of experience ahead of me with that. So for newer folks that don't know a ton about pianos, this hopefully is some good information about whether or not something is worth it. I'd also like to say I'm not the greatest to ask about appraisals. I don't really have any good information on that, what things are financially worth. But whether or not it's worth saving, I want to put this video up because, quite frankly, money is still a factor for people. It's not about how hard you work. It's not necessarily about, the effort you put in. It's financial opportunities for folks. Not everybody has those opportunities. However, pianos are such a nice thing to have in the home that I think a lot of things are very worth it. You just will change your expectations, what you're going to get out of the piano. You won't get perfect sound for 75 years if you've got a piano that has some damage, but it isn't critical. Generally speaking, I think more music in the world is a good thing, and you can get quite a lot of life out of more pianos than you would think. Not condoning damaging any pianos or running them into the ground, but generally speaking, I want to offer some optimism here. So there are things that you'll be able to see as a general person, and things that you won't be able to see that I'll get to later on in the video. To be honest, one of the biggest reminders for folks is that this is a piece of furniture. It usually has its own area in the house, like a couch or like a television. How big they are, how expensive they are to move. But when it comes to like judging the health of a piano for your average folk, look at it. I mean, it's got a case, it's got legs. This one still has legs. Yeah, you'll notice cracks if there are. You'll notice paneling if any of that's not held together anymore. Physical damage to it can really compromise, being able to use it to play. That's without even opening it up. If the soundboard is not cracked, that's a good step. Or like it's been thrown down a flight of stairs. That's a good sign. That's a good step. Don't throw it out yet. The next thing is to lift the lid. And the first thing I'm going to do is not put my coffee on the piano. It's steel and felt and wood. Liquids are just, hold on. I have the piano opened up a bit more than you would really need. Most folks just lift the lid. I recommend doing that because it looks really cool in here, first of all. But this is all going to be covered up. Most likely you'll see the white keys. Oh, hey, my arm did that. And then looking down, you'll see the hammers and the dampers, the parts behind the hammers that kill the sound. Pardon my tools up here. So when you lift the lid, I'm going to stand right next to the piano. You won't see this. This is usually covered still, but you will see all of this. You've got your hammers here, dampers. You'll notice, I'll use a key for it. See that? They will lift to let that string ring out. And so that's one of the things you can see. If you press a key and something actually happens, that's a really good sign. And the other thing to look for literally is consistency. I've had some disgustingly dirty pianos that still perform decently well. You can see all the way down. There's one of my tuning levers here. So look for consistency. If your tuning pins, your strings, if nothing seems wildly out of whack, that's a good step. And then test a key, see if it actually does something, which I know it sounds kind of silly, but you'd be surprised. When you open up a piano, generally you'll see these. You'll be able to see if these are cracked or damaged, which again will be fairly self-explanatory. It's very fixable. If everything seems kind of consistent, it just sounds wonky, it needs a tuning. And there's more up here. Your strings themselves if they're rusty, if they're missing something weird going on here, or if the pins, which is a big army of pins, look at that, it's like a whole army right next to each other. You can tell if something's weird because they're all so uniform. Things can be tuned and your technician will be able to tell you more. Another thing that I wanted to add is to look at the felt that you can see. It's a little kind of like the craters on the moon. You can kind of tell with how abused the hammers are what condition the rest of the piano might be in. That's a little bit of a red flag. Never, please never use a wrench on these tuning pins. I'm a hobby machinist, so this makes sense to me and I hope it makes sense to you. They are custom machined. They're tapered, they have a custom profile to them, and our tools have a custom machined fit for all the different sizes of pianos. And technicians are trained to use them as well. And when it comes to me, your pins, I will look at to see how firmly they are set behind your cast iron plate. It's kind of wild to think about like a city street. There are many layers to your piano itself. We can feel and see and inspect all the different areas of your action. Many times, if there's really bad obstructions, you'll want a tech to come in and help you remove the keys and clean that out for you, because they do, I mean, there's gaps between them. They're never supposed to really touch each other. The one thing that I did want to add is that your dampers here, sometimes if it feels like the pedal in your car won't move, you know, that's a minor problem. There's rods that come up and attach to sections of the action to lift it. And your tech can figure that out and get that running again. It's not a critical central nervous system of the piano situation. So that was a lot of information, I know. I think this is cool stuff. There's so many moving parts inside of a piano, but generally speaking, if the strings and where the strings are attached are able to keep a tuning, something your tech will be able to judge. If the action is still in decent shape, if nothing's broken, if the springs are still strong and everything's kind of consistent, you'll get a consistent sound out of the piano. If things aren't deeply abused up here where the strike point is, if all the levers and parts of the action are still, you know, responding, like the keys and stuff, and if there's no cracks anywhere, it is wood, then you kind of have a good bedrock. Like, again, I keep all my tools up here. Pianos need to be tuned at least once a year. I usually do twice a year for folks here in Western New York because you have cold weather, spring hits and everything kind of, you know, wood shrinks as it dries. So it can, that and the metal itself can be a complicated relationship. But truthfully, yeah, it's worth it. It's in rough shape. You can still get music out of it. Maybe not for as long. You won't be able to keep it for 30, 40 years. And the more problems come up, don't repair them, your music quality will go south pretty quickly. But I don't know, some families, you know, their budgets, it's not in the budget to have a fully restocked piano. And some people want a piano for adolescence. And so I think it's always worth it if playing the piano will give you music for a certain amount of time for the near future. If you can afford it, whatever you can afford, it's worth it to have a piano even if it's for a short amount of time. I'm hoping this objective information lets you make the decision about whether it's worth it for you. If you can pull it off, it's really cool to have a piano around. When you strike a key, this whole thing will resonate. It's different than listening to somebody else do it through headphones. And maybe I'll leave you with trepidation. I'll play a 7th chord. Angst just before the next octave. Of course, that needs some tuning. It's a good sign that you need a tuning, so call your technician. When there's multiple strings per key, if those 3 aren't at the same pitch, it causes clashing of waves. If they're wrong, you can hear it. If they're right, it sounds good, but if they're wrong, you can really tell, even if you don't know what the heck you're listening to. So, I'll see you when you need a tuning. of batteries. No, I'm not. There's contacts problems. Okay.